All right, this is Phil Simborg with another video podcast, and I have with me, well, first of all, just take a look at the screen. This is the Giants of backgammon, 1993, 95, 97. Look who's on the top of the list. Wilcox Snelling dropped to number 2 in 95, back to number 1, and I've got Wilcox Snelling with me today, also considered back then to be one of the best money players in the world as well as match player. Wilcox, after 1997, you dropped on the list and got lost completely. What happened?
I got happily married is what happened, and still happily married, and almost 19 years later, that was the biggest thing. And it became difficult for me to get good money games at that point, and I also shifted over to sports betting. So between time commitments and wanting to spend vacations with my family instead of traveling to tournaments, that was the call I made, and I felt good about it almost instantly, which may sound a little bit weird, but I recall the last match that I played in the States was against NAC Ballard in Vegas in April of '97, and then we had like a wedding event or a party down in Costa Rica, and I played in a small tournament that was down there, and then that was it.
So you married
I just want to say one thing. What was interesting to me was when I went to Vegas, I think it was the tournament in November or something like that of that year. I went there just to say hi to some friends, and my emotion was that I had given myself a get out of jail free card in not playing anymore. I actually felt sort of relieved. And I can't say that the game was, it didn't feel like the game was pressure for me per se, but what was interesting and not surprising, this happens in games, it happens in sports, that people were all their emotional energy playing me, not everybody, but a lot of people were gearing up for me psychologically so much. And I don't think they were necessarily playing any better. Sometimes they were playing worse. But I like the people of backgammon. Not everybody, but I like the sort of camaraderie and everything. But it became too almost personal over the board, and I was happy to get away from that.
So you met a lady from Costa Rica, and you got married and moved to Costa Rica?
Well, eventually. So we lived in Vegas for 8 years, then a couple of years on the island of Curacao, and then we've been here in Costa Rica now for almost 9 years, yeah.
And you have children?
We do, by my wife's first marriage. I certainly call them our children for a long time by now, but our daughter is living in Las Vegas. She's 31 and about to be married, and our son is 26 and living here. He's about to move out of the house. He's got a good job now, and so that's the setup.
And your son has been showing up a little bit playing backgammon, following in your footsteps, I understand.
Well, he's actually the reason that I got back playing at all, because I had taken essentially 18 years off. I think there were a couple of friends that came down. We'd play some matches. This happened once or twice over that span of years. But other than that, I didn't play any backgammon at all. Occasionally would look at a problem that someone would send me, but that was it. But my son got interested early last year on his own. Someone in his life who was there before I came along was also a big backgammon player, and that's his main sort of semi-retired hobby at this point. So my son, through him, started playing some, and I had the choice to make of whether to become his coach or not encourage the obsessional nature of backgammon. And I thought about it for a couple of weeks and decided, well, I may as well be his coach because he's probably going to get hooked on the game anyhow. And so, he learned a lot between my coaching and studying with XG, and he's become a very good player in a relatively short period of time.
I love your choice of words, using the obsessional nature of backgammon. I was with Mochi when he gave a lecture in Monte Carlo a couple months ago, and he warned that it's dangerous. And actually, he dropped out of college at one of the finest universities for backgammon. And I myself became addicted to backgammon back in the late 60s when Oswald Jacoby introduced me to the game, and I pretty much gave up all other pastimes, most other pastimes for it. But I haven't been able to just walk away like very few people with your skill being at the very, very top and one of the best, it's almost like Bobby Fischer disappearing from chess to see you just walk away, and you seem very, very pleased and happy with it. You don't miss it then, huh?
Yeah, I really did not. I think, I don't know, I had people approach these games differently. And if you reach the point where you are at the top or near the top, one of the motivations certainly back then, and obviously there's been another wave now of selected opportunities for money, but one of the things was to make as much money as you could, especially if you decide that was going to be your profession. I certainly tried to make money, but I think my personal goal, understanding my ego even back then, was to be the best, or not just recognized as the best, but by my own perception, feeling as if I was the best, even if it was just by a little bit. Certainly give great credit to at least 10 other players back then, and I think I was slightly better than some others for about 6 or 7 years, but it was very close. Certainly Ballard and Senkowitz in particular. There were obviously Joe Sylvester was playing matches at a terrific level. I don't want to take anything away from Roberti, and I'm sure I'm going to slight somebody by not going on and on, but I got kind of what I wanted, and held that status for enough years to satisfy that part of my ego, and that was a big part of why it was easier for me to bow out, I think.
And history has proven that your comments are right. Reviewing matches in the past, I understand from other sources that you had, if not the lowest PRs, using our modern extreme gammon, even playing back then without the benefit of extreme gammon, of all the players who were playing. So you certainly did achieve that level. You showed it with your wins. And now that you're getting back into it, I understand you have extreme gammon. Are you starting to play online or practice with extreme gammon or play with your son? And if so, how are you playing?
Yeah, well, this is what I did. It was, I said this 18-year run. There was a period 3 years ago during the summer for about 6 weeks where I have a pretty good vacation during the summer, and I decided, someone said XG is the best by far. We'll call it the god of backgammon at this point. Surely it's making some errors, but they're so small and virtually undetectable. And so I decided to challenge myself. So in the first, I don't know, like 100 games, maybe I was playing at a 4 or 5 level or something. By the time I finished with, I think it was like 800 games, the final 500 games I was playing, this is money games, I was playing at about a 2.8. And in matches, I didn't play many matches. I was never that interested in match play because, I was kind of driven by the money aspect of it. And yeah, you can win big prizes in tournaments sometimes, but that just didn't turn me on as much. I think I was playing matches probably like at a 3-3 or a 3-4, but I played maybe 50 matches. And that satisfied me. And I just stopped again. You can say, well, you're playing really well, why don't you continue? But I didn't have any motivation to go to tournaments, and I didn't have the motivation to say I'm going to study this like crazy and see if I can get down to a 2.5. It just didn't, I felt good enough. I said I'm probably still at this point maybe in the top 20 at that point. Not knowing exactly where people play, but I felt fine with that. And then when my son started playing, we were using XG because certainly I'm not the final authority on anything. If I play a 2.8 or a 3.5 or whatever I play at, there are plenty of mistakes that I'm not going to catch. So we use it as a tool. We would play matches or games together, and we would video record and then input and go through and figure out errors. So we did that, and then I played some against XG, and again, it was almost like the same thing from a couple of years before. So that's just sort of brings things up to date. And I think I got the money games were getting down to close to 2.6, and the matches were maybe around 3.1, 3.2. And I finally decided, again, the bulk of my business year, and I'm like an MBA analyst for the purpose of sports betting, and I've been doing that for years now for a private company. So my work schedule begins very soon, in a couple of weeks. I decided I would play grid gammon, and I got hooked on that. It's like I have a pretty obsessive personality that's kind of in control. I don't mean control, but just, I keep it kind of tamped down. But the moment I started playing on grid gammon and had all these hours, I think in 3.5 weeks, I logged like 1,400 games, which is a fair amount for someone who hadn't been playing for years. But, I'm almost kind of done with that. And I'm playing now the last, 150, 200 matches at about a 3-1. And, that feels good enough. I understand if I was 25 and I was Mochi or one of these guys, I go ahead and study match equities really refined. I don't even know the estimated pip count formula. There are a lot of things that I really don't know. I don't have tons of benchmarks in my head, but you have to remember I did play over the board. I guess I played like 25,000 games, and I did a lot of rollouts and studied, pretty fanatically back in the day. Myself, maybe O'Loughlin. I'm sure there were a couple others were probably had the biggest work ethic. I don't claim to be the smartest games player. Sankiewicz and Ballard and a couple of others are, tremendous. They can play all sorts of games. They're just, tremendous natural talent. Fair amount of work as well. But in my case, I think there was like plausible natural talent, but a heavy work ethic.
So, and I agree with you on all the people you mentioned. It was Ed O'Loughlin that took me aside many years ago and showed me how he was practicing for 12 hours a day against canoe backgammon before Extreme Gammon came out. And,
sure.
And he still does practice for 12 hours a day. So just raw memory, you'll eventually have enough reference positions and know the plays and the cube action. You must be really, really talented, though, at math, I would assume, to be doing what you're doing and to be that good at backgammon. Would you say your math skills are very, very good?
Someone actually asked me that the other day, or made that same assumption, and I said, I'm good at quick math. And obviously that's all, we don't need geometry or physics for the purpose of backgammon. But as I also just mentioned, I'm not thinking in terms of match equity. I mean, I have certainly a feel of what you're supposed to do at certain scores, but I'm not crunching numbers finely. And I decided, look, if my son and I trot off to Monte Carlo, once in the next couple of years, I'll spend a couple of weeks, picking up a book and thinking about specific things and kind of hone that part of my game. But I don't have the time or really the interest to do that. I think, again, there are many people that are more mathematical than I am. And as far as just sort of broader math, probabilities was about the only thing that really turned me on either late in high school or in college. Things like physics or geometry, or it didn't do it for me. I think I have the kind of mind that's very good with sort of, structural logic and visualization, and could have done fine in other math areas, but I'm actually more interested very often in reading and philosophy and psychology than I am in numbers.
Well, that's fascinating. And one of the things you said excites me, that we might see you show up at Monte Carlo or a tournament sometime. At the level you're playing, you can certainly be competitive with anybody in the world. And we now have a new organization called BMAB that is actually recording PRs from live matches. And if you would play at the level you have been playing at, you would certainly be a grandmaster level, probably level 2 or 3 or maybe even 1 over the board if you brushed up a little bit. So you're up there. It'd be fun to see you show up. I hope you do. Be sure you flag me and let me know when you're going to show up so I can make sure to be at that tournament and we can.
Okay. I'll do that. It would only be if my son's coming with me.
I got you. So your daily life in Costa Rica, you part of the season you are very, very, very busy analyzing sports betting. And what do you do the rest of the time? What is your daily life like down there?
I play tennis 2 or 3 times a week, and the food's pretty good, and we do traveling during the summer. So I'm pretty locked in October through. Well, the NBA Finals ends around June 15th. The last month of the playoffs is very slow, but it's my sport, so I have to run that out. During the bulk of the NBA season, it's like 70 to 75 hours a week.
Okay, I got to ask you a question then. I'm a big Chicago Bulls fan. Do we have a chance this year?
You have a chance to make the playoffs. Look, I don't know, how much Wade has left in the tank, and Rondo, his effort level is kind of inconsistent, especially on defense. To combine these players it's going to be an effort for Hoiberg, but they certainly have a decent chance at finishing somewhere between 7th and 4th seed, I guess.
I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have fun going to the games, though. It'll be a fun team to watch.
Sure. Well, it's nice to have Wade back in Chicago, where he's from. So.
Yeah. Who's going to win?
The Cavs, despite their age, being in the East, they still have sort of a leg up. Just, they're obviously, if they just planted in the finals, then that's a much easier path. Golden State with Durant is very strong, but their bench is a lot thinner. San Antonio, despite the fact that every year you think, they've got to be done, they picked up Gasol and they lost a couple of bench players, but they've still got a shot out there.
Well, great. I appreciate the help. Let's have a little fun now. You've been away from this game. I selected a few positions that I think are pretty interesting. That one of them that I've shared with Jim Pasco. I don't know if you remember Jim very well.
Oh, sure. Yeah, in a little communication with him.
Yeah, Jim and I have become very good friends, and he's one of my real heroes of the game. He questions everything unless he can prove it logically himself. He won't believe extreme gammon, and he also has, especially in back games and complicated games, he's pretty well proven he can outplay extreme gammon. I wouldn't bet on anybody in the world against Jim in a back game play, although I'm sure there are some like Falafel and yourself and others who have the insights that could give him a run. But he sent me a position, or he and I sent him the position. I want to show it to you and see what you think of it and what you would do. So let's take a look. I'm going to open up my extreme gammon, and I'm going to find my little file here where
as we preface this run through of 5 positions or however many you're going to give me, I am humble enough and I've seen it enough that if I go 0 for 5, I can live with that. So we'll see what happens.
Well, again, I don't expect – these are debatable. We don't even know the right play because we don't know if we can even believe extreme gammon here, although Jim Pasco takes these positions and he does what you used to do in the old days. He's one of the few that's still playing it out over the board hundreds of times and recording the results because you just don't know about this. Here's an example. This is a money game, and I got to change the screen a little bit to make sure it fits in the screen for the recording. I'm sorry about that, but I got to make it a little smaller. And blue is holding the cube. Blue's in a deep back game, as you can see, and red has a 6-2 to play. So give me your thoughts on what plays you would consider and then what play you think you would make over the board.
Okay. Right or wrong, this isn't one that would take a lot of time on, not because I know that I'm right, but just because the play seems the most natural to me. So I would go 11-9 and 8-2.
11-9. So you'd hit loose off the 2-point. And 11-9, 8-2. That's a pretty radical play. Let me show you what that first blush plus is the best that extreme gammon can do without a rollout, which basically is a 360 game trunk.
My second play, by the way, is to run the back man without hitting.
And when in both of your plays are very interesting. XG sort of likes coming out and hitting and sliding the 9-point. These plays are all about timing. You know that blue does not have timing here, so it's a matter of how many gammons you're going to pick up and how bad you can clobber him. He doesn't have a winning game here because of the lack of timing. And XG is a little slow on this one because it's tough and there's a lot of plays. But
sure.
Look at XG's number 1 play.
All right.
Isn't that funny?
But as Jim would say, we have no idea.
Right? Well, here's the play that I like and that Jim likes. Hitting twice. You hit here and you hit here.
Sure.
Can you see the beauty of that play?
I see it. I don't know. It seems that given that you only have a 4, I understand the guy's got all these timing issues and you have infinite game to play. But if he happens to leg into the 4-point, that could be an issue. I don't have any deeper comments about it, but I understand the concept of timing.
So this is one of the reasons why, after spending time with Jim, I invented a game called Pasco Gammon, which basically you start in the back game. I think I shared it with you. And Jim has been playing it with Falafel and with Bob Wachtel and Joe Russell and and me, and Akiko was playing it in Monte Carlo. It seems to be a favorite thing. And part of the reason is because you just you can't use your memory of reference positions. You have to be creative in these plays, and you certainly showed you have that ability. Let me show you a little bit more standard kind of play.
I was just going to say, while I appreciate having variations of backgammon, I think for myself, I got kind of narrow with it, and I'm sort of comfortable with it. I just don't like games that go on and on and on. I must have something in me that's almost like a poker player that really wants a new hand to start, like relatively soon. Yeah. So I don't mind a game that goes on for 10 minutes occasionally, but I just don't want games that go on for 45 minutes. Yeah, there are intellectual challenges. Again, I appreciate that some people love that, but anyhow, it's just a little bit, it's not really suited to me for some reason.
I got you. Well, let's look at a more standard position.
Okay.
Steve Sachs sent me this one, asked me what play I would make over the board, and this again is a money game, blue holding the cube and red to play double one. Let's see what you think about this one.
All right. Okay, I think I would go 23, make the 4, and go to the 12. I wouldn't do any of these like hitting the second guy or switching or something. Or yeah, okay, that's my play.
Okay, so you play 13 to 12 and
Yep.
and 6 to 4,
and hit the last guy, right?
Oh, okay. Then you play 12.
Yeah, so 13 to 12, right? Hit and make the 4 point.
Okay. And here's the rollout. The rollout is not hitting at anything at all.
Okay.
And killing the timing. And Steve was kind of proud because he did make this is rolled out quite a bit.
The only thing I was going to say is, and it's easy to say now, but I honestly didn't see the Blues guy on the roof.
Oh,
anyhow, that's all I can say. I have to think about it without trying to remember what XG said was right. In fact, I was already on the roof. All right, just a moment. Yeah, it's completely different because I imagined that there was one on the roof, in which case it would have been basically the same play. I wouldn't have added a second. I suspect, but I don't want to claim for sure. I suspect I would have made the same play that turns out to be correct, or one of those top 2 plays.
So if you were teaching your son, what would if you were
have to pay attention to details a little bit more?
That's okay. By the way, that's not seeing the checker on the bar is a good excuse. I was once playing online with Paul Franks, who now lives in Vegas, and he made a horrible play, and I told him, I pointed it out. He said, well, the sun was in my eyes. So yours is better than that one.
Right. I want to see if I can just watch. It's not a width issue. Anyhow, I'll just pay closer attention to the.
Now let's pretend that your son is with you now, and you have to explain why XG's play is right. Why is it right not to hit here? What's the logic behind it?
Well, you love the guy on the 23 point or on your opponent's deuce point. Anyhow, like you don't always hit those guys. There are a lot of opportunities in the middle game where you can hit a guy on the ace point, or you can hit a guy elsewhere, and you want to leave the guy in his inner board where it is because it's in a bad position. In this case, clearly, he has no particularly good entry numbers. I mean, his best, I suppose, is like double threes. He doesn't really want to even roll a 2-6, which is sort of limited value. And his timing, as you said, and is perfectly clear, sucks. And that's more important. I mean, if you knew he was going to roll a 3, you'd rather he rolls a 3 with only 4 men back than with 5 men back, just because of the timing.
Well, that's why I chose a very poor play in comparison. I chose to make the 3 point and stop him from having a chance to make make it harder for him to make the second anchor. And what's wrong with my play?
Well, part of the problem here is that, he has, granted, he has limited opportunities in this game as it is, but you are giving him this chance to just, flop a 4, even if just a single 4, and now you're under a little bit of, not pressure at all, but the question, you hit loose and you might be hit back. You've already got this prime. Primes are so valuable by themselves, and you have limited wood in the zone at present. So you just want to, overwhelm him with the strength of the prime, not give him other outs to sort of fumble through a different type of game.
Well, I love the way you describe this. I teach backgammon for a living, and I can't stress enough when I'm talking to people about plays that you have to think about game plan, and everything you said was about game plan. If we had more checkers in the zone, then you would consider a blitzing zone instead of a blitzing game plan instead of a priming game plan. And my mistake was playing a blitzing game when you should be playing a priming game here.
Yeah.
Very, very good. I love it. You're right with it. What a talent we have here that's not out there playing backgammon, teaching, writing, or playing. It's really I'm so jealous that I would give anything to have your talent. When I see people like you and Gus Hansen and Leverman, people who are amazing players and they're not playing backgammon at all, I understand why. There's a lot of other things out there to be interested in, and a lot of ways to make a lot more money than you can in backgammon too. If you want to make
you play a very meaningful role. First of all, you're a pretty good player, and second of all, what you're doing for the game of backgammon is worth quite a bit. Between coaching and organizing things and getting these videos out there and sending batches of positions periodically from your chouette, it's a great gift to the game.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And if I had your brains and gifts, I'd probably be in sports betting right now. I just don't have your talents to do that. There's a saying that those who can do and those who can't teach. So here I am. Let's do one more that I thought was an interesting position that I'd like to get your take on.
All right.
This is not
on the roof.
And nobody's on the roof. And the sun's not in your eyes. And it's like to play 4-4 money game with blue holding the cube.
All right. So we got this and that. I'm going to think about it a little longer. My hand play, I call it the hand play, even if you can't use your hands in these things, where your hand naturally wants to go to. Obviously, if you've been playing a lot and are a pretty good player, your hands are going to tend to move correctly. Making the 4 and coming out to the 16 looks like the most natural play. This idea, like making
this play. This is what you say looks like the most.
I'm pretty sure this is the hand play, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
This notion of like making your bar, you're just giving him opportunities to do other stuff, and then you're going to want to hit loose, or hopefully you roll some number out. Okay, that's my play.
Okay, that's your play. Well, I was shocked at XG's play.
Switch and make the 4-point? Okay.
There's XG's play. And it's right by a lot. And don't feel bad. I've shown this position to many players on your level and lower, of course, and none of us got it right, including me. It's so unnatural to make the play. This
is. I'm going to sound like the person who just makes excuses. I actually thought you ended up with a 3-point board that way. That was the first thing I looked at. I said, but you only ended up with a 3-point board. Again, I almost need like pieces in front of me. It looks like. But yeah, I'm not going to say anything more because it's going to seem like I'm just
excuse.
Just made the right play. But this is right. I'll say why this is right. We'll just get to that. This is right because clearly you're going to win more gammons. You've got your guys in the 11 and 8 are poised well, either to just sort of sit there in case he comes in and maybe you can't hit him back and you bring out the back guy, or in the event that he comes in, you're able to possibly point on him or at least hit loose, and you've got the 4-point board to a 2-point board. If he doesn't come in at all, you're freezing all his checkers in the outfield for the possible gammon, and either can make points or escape the back guy and still have all these builders loaded up. I mean, I'm just saying this play is clear to me.
Look at the wins. Look at the wins, though, Wilcox. It's also looks like the right play for DMP. It looks like it wins more also. Let's put it on DMP.
It makes sense because you're not giving your opponent a full roll to improve his position.
It's also the DMP play.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it surprised everybody. I didn't mean to throw curves at you, but the point is,
No, you didn't throw any curve. You didn't do anything. You didn't do anything. I actually did it to myself because I thought it was a 3-point board for some reason. So either it's too early here, or I need more coffee or something.
No, that's okay. What time is it in Costa Rica right now?
No, it's 11. Where is it? No, it's now 10. It's an hour earlier than.
An hour earlier than Chicago. Yeah, it's 11:30 here in Chicago. Well, let me wrap this up by asking you, just give me a couple of minute overview on the game itself. What has it meant to you over the years? Do you think you wasted your youth by working so hard to become a great backgammon player? Could you have done something else? Are you happy you did it? And what do you think about the future of the game itself and where it's going?
Okay, I have no regrets at all about having played as much backgammon as I did, particularly because I have been married a couple of times, so now I've been married for 20 years very happily, but it happened that I met, other women who were important in my life prior to that through backgammon, and then, my wife for life as well. I also, 2 of my business partners, both from backgammon. So you can't ask for much better than that, on top of getting whatever, ego recognition that filled me up in a certain way, that, played a big role, I think, in giving me probably confidence in other things. I was a relatively confident person, but I think that fueled me, for some other things down the road. Met a lot of very good friends and still have some close friends from backgammon. So that's a pretty good package. And where do I think the game is now? I'm happy to see this next evolution, which has been underway, I don't know exactly how many years, but between the intercollegiate backgammon efforts that are being made, a couple of the star players like Mucci and is it Mochi or Mucci?
Mochi.
Mochi, okay. I think Mucci was from the movie Dogma. I saw that.
I think you'll answer to both.
Early Affleck and Damon, if people like interesting comedies, that was a good one. So yeah, what Mochi is doing and some others, as far as, not only doing well for themselves financially, but giving back to the game, even if they're getting paid for it, doesn't matter, in terms of coaching and lectures and everything. I think it's terrific. Backgammon's there are many things to say about backgammon. I guess I don't know if it's true or sort of a slightly made up story, but I heard that I believe it was Aristotle clearly the people who got into his, I think it was the academy or the symposium, something, they many came from well-to-do families, of course, but he gave a test or a couple of tests for people getting in, and backgammon, whatever version there was back then, was one of the ways he tried to see how smart the kind of logical tendencies of people, of the prospective students, and I think that's a pretty good sign in and of itself. It features things that come up in life. People say, oh, but chess is like this pure skill, and or playing pool or something is nearly pure skill, and that's fine. But real life is not like that. Real life involves a combination of using your wits and studying and things like that, as well as relationships. But it also involves a lot of luck and how you deal with that in terms of emotions. Does your mind freeze? And these are very important qualities in life, not just in this particular game.
Wonderful, wonderful recap. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to check this video and make sure it came out right, and then post it on YouTube and advertise it as usual. And if there's a problem, I'll get back to you. Thank you. And I really look forward to continuing our online relationship. I consider you to be one of my real great go-to people for information on backgammon today and the thought process. And I won't bother you too much during the NBA season except to tell me who to bet on.
Okay, Phil. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Enjoyed it. Bye-bye.
All right, take care.
Okay.